Welcome to the GrayHawk DJC podcast. In today's podcast, we talk with Matt Ericson, the owner of Einstein Fulfillment, a third-party logistics company in Coppell, Texas. We hope you enjoy the podcast. Hey, Matt.
How's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. You are the first guest that is returning to the podcast, so thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Glad to be back in the hot seat. Super excited for you guys are here and that you're still doing this, and excited that we can come back together, man. This will be an interesting conversation. Let's see where it goes.
Absolutely. You're welcome. Thank you. So just for the audience, let's recap. The last time we saw you, you had founded Trekka Logistics, which is a third-party logistics company.
Yep.
And now you're working on creating a second 3PL company.
Correct.
Called Einstein Fulfillment.
Yep.
Right. So we're in the offices right now. Let's start with where we left you off. I think it was about 2 years ago, right? Or no, 3 years ago.
Three
years ago.
Yeah, three almost
Right.
to the.
And you're about 6 months into your first company.
Yep.
Okay. So tell us what happened after that. So you're at Trekka Logistics.
That's when the roller coaster started.
All right.
The last video that we had, I think we were still impacted by the ice storm, the generational ice storm, and learned a lot. Learned a lot as a business owner then about what I should and shouldn't have done, how I should have stood up for myself. Look back at a lot of that, but long story short, as you fast forward 6 months, we finally got our building back. So we really were forced to kind of hold for 6 months. We reopened then in Q3 of 2021, and we grew 100% every quarter for the next 5 quarters. Then in Q1 of 2023, Trekka was acquired.
So tell us the acquisition process. What happened? And for people who don't know, we're in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and about 3 years ago, we had one of the worst ice storms in the history of Dallas.
Yep.
And I know a lot of people up north are looking at us like, what? But for
I
us
come from the Midwest.
Right.
I look at us as what also?
So for us Texans, though, when it gets icy, life stops. But this one was particularly bad, and you had to shut down your business for a while?
Yeah, we couldn't even access the building. When we got back in, there was pipes that had burst, and it flooded the entire office area. So we had multiple customers that had moved in, but we had no facilities, literally, to be able to bring employees in and support the business out there. So from the last time that we spoke, I actually built Trekka from the warehouse because they ripped the offices down to the studs completely. And we had to build the business from a packing station in the warehouse.
How did you grow the business with that happening to you?
Well, thanks to you, actually. So we had 3 clients at the time, and then you reached out to me and said, hey, let's talk about you being a wacky entrepreneur. What are you doing? I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but we talked anyways. We just took it one day at a time. That's really what we did. I looked at it and said, okay, we have these clients and we have to support them. So how do we do that first and foremost, right? We still have the commitment to get the orders out the door. We still have these commitments. How do we do that first and foremost? Then you make sure you bundle up because it was the middle of the winter and it was cold. But you focus on the belief, and the belief that, hey, if you build it, they will come, and you continue in that belief. So then your video came about, and there was, as a startup, people were obviously, suspect, I want to say. Not suspect, but hey, there's a lot of 3PLs out there. We understand you have this history, but you're a new company. There was a couple that were on the fence, and when your video was released 3 years ago, I actually used it as a marketing tool, and I reached out to those 3 clients that were on the fence and said, hey, here's a little more introduction to who I am, right? And let's not talk on Zoom, rate sheets, here's an introduction to who I am and what we do. And those 3 actually called within 24 hours and said, we want to move in. And from there, it was all referral-based growth.
Wow.
So we really pivoted to focusing on a service base and focusing on what we do, what we sell, how we do it, the commitment to the customers. And because of that, it was all referral based. So it was actually hard to, growing 100% quarter after quarter for 5 quarters straight it's hard to control. There's a lot of that's very fast growth, right? Not only from the aspect of financially, employees. When we spoke, I had 2 employees. Within 6 months, we had 15 employees out there, right? So everything, because we had built it and we believed in what we had built, it was proven true that when the clients then were able to come in, it just kept on rolling, and I remember some weeks we onboarded 2 and 3 clients a week, and we were working out of a 15,000 square foot warehouse. People that have warehouses will understand what that means from that aspect, but no.
What's that like, having to take care of so many customers all at once or suddenly?
Most of our clients were startup to mid-size, I would say, enough that I was speaking with the business owner or a stakeholder, honestly. So I approached it as, I treat your business as my business. So there was a connection there that you're speaking to the owner. I'm making a commitment to you, not only as a business person, as Trekka Logistics, but as Matt, a also small business owner, and I understand the details you have to deal with, the processes you have to deal with, and that's how we can partner with you, because of that understanding, we can support you in solutions and be able to guide these solutions. You may not need, or you've been thinking about, or whatever it may be, but having that understanding to really partner with those businesses is really what really drove that, and then the service perspective. And some of those clients, I remember one came in and I reached out to the person that referred them and I said, "Hey, really appreciate the referral. Thanks a lot, man." He said, "Well, what do you mean? I didn't give you a referral." He asked me how I liked my 3PL. I said, "I never have to talk to him." Shoot, that's the biggest referral you can give us, right? Because that's what I preach, is that you can go focus on what you do and what your passion is, because my passion is geeking out over the systems and the processes and how to make this efficient as possible. And when I tell you the orders are going to come in and they're going to go out this way, I mean that, right? And I will be there making sure that happens. So it was fun. There was things I did throughout that process, all to make it fun as well. There was one apparel company that's still going. Screw it. Fox and Robin. They're really good. If you don't know them, you should look them up. They got quality clothing, and they're a quality company. So you can keep that in there if you want or not. But they were part of the Trekka growth, right? And we worked very closely with them. And one of their new marketing concepts was they would have parties on Saturday nights, right? So they had a lot of co-branding. They had a lot of different things going on. But they said, "Look, we're going to go to Boston and rent out this bar and throw a big party, where you can also buy Fox and Robin clothing. You can do all of this." So while they're throwing these parties in San Francisco and Boston and Chicago and New York, etc., we also had our own little parties in the warehouse, right? And we had a pizza party, and me and somebody else were in there, and so you're at a party in Chicago and you're like, "Yeah, let me order this clothing," and 15 minutes later, bing, wait, with this shipped already, right? All that does is support the brand. Then they go to the brand and say, "Man, your warehouse is awesome. They shipped already. This is great." They don't know it's us down in DFW, right? All they care is that company, when they ordered the product, they knew that, they received the order, it shipped on time, I know I'm going to get it in 3 days. Right. And that's what our commitment is. So we did a lot of things like that for fun as well, because of being a small business owner and understanding that and wanting to support that and be part of that process.
You sell peace of mind, basically.
Honestly, I'm a solutions company with an operation to back it up. That's truly that's what we are. With Einstein, we have a PhD in fulfillment, right? You can use all those phrases, but the reality is, because of the systems that we've built, we can focus on those solutions, and it's very interesting to me. One of the things that Trekka became also, because we were referral-based growth, is these people left this place and they came here and were like, "Hey, okay, let me preface this by saying I don't like talking bad about other companies, and I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to paint a broad picture of et cetera. What I will say is that it's extremely discouraging to find out how many people don't really care to take care of their clients, right? And how many clients deal with that for years and years because they think there is nothing better out there. There was a company very recently that was with Trekka. Through the acquisition, they moved on somewhere else. Then they moved on to another place and then another place. And they reached out to me a month ago and said, Matt, hey, can you help us find a good 3PL, right? And I'm sitting here like, it's only been a year. You've been at 3 different 3PLs, and it's the same thing through the whole deal where you have somebody that sells something, but they don't understand the operation. The operation doesn't understand what's being sold. Then it all just falls apart. It turns into, hey, we sold you on this, but to us, actually, it's just getting a box out the door. And there are plenty of clients that should be the focus, because to them, they want cheap prices, they want efficiency, they want it out on time, and they want to get it there as cheap as possible, right? That's perfectly fine. We're built for that all day long, too. You want to ship 5,000 orders all day at the cheapest price possible in a small little bubble mailer? No problem, right? But you have small businesses that don't know what they don't know. And then they partner with companies and they feel that, oh, okay, these are big companies and they do this and we can trust them. They're going to guide us through this process. I stood out in the warehouse. We had 2 clients out there that one had referred the other and they had never met. Actually, they just been through the same pain at the previous 3PL, and one had said, don't go to a new one. I'm looking around. I'll get back to you in 30 days. And then he reached out and said, hey, I'm over here at Einstein. This guy came, etc. But listening to them talk for 30 minutes about the horror stories that they've dealt with at other 3PLs, or companies that are really a warehouse but then mask themselves as an e-commerce fulfillment center, right? Very different concepts. Freight forwarders are not 3PLs, right? 3PLs are not freight forwarders.
Can you tell us the difference?
Yeah. This is going to make a lot of people mad, and it's not meant to. It's out of pure. My career started in freight forwarding, right, at GrayHawk Logistics. So maybe that reference will appease the people who don't, Freight forwarding is about the movement of the bulk goods to me, right? It's the manufacturer to the warehouse. It's this to this, right? It is pallets and it is cartons and it is trucks, right? That's what a lot of it is. You're moving freight. Here, you're dealing with a small each, you're dealing with a master carton, you're dealing with a full crate that is one piece of good. So here we can't work with just a single lane. We have to be able to offer, you're on Shopify and you're selling, and TikTok's feeding into that, and you're selling 3,000 orders a day that way, and you want to ship a DHL e-com at an ounce-based rate because you want the cheapest price. But by the way, you're also selling to Costco, and you're also selling in Amazon, you're also selling in Walmart. Somebody has to be able to support all of those different sales channels, understand the difference between them, and it's not really that much difference, but the devil's in the details, right? Okay. And that's really what makes the difference between, I think, 3PLs that can be successful for certain clients and others that can't, right? A lot of small businesses come in and they say, okay, I'm selling this way, but they have aspirations to then move to Amazon. They want to sell on these big box retailers. They want to sell on Fair. They want to move here. They want to get to Costco. Can we sell internationally? Well, hell yeah, you can. Ooh, let's do that. What does that mean? Well, we just sell internationally. Oh, hey, has anybody talked to you about HTS codes, duties, any of this, right? We take that approach and we say we're going to be the full service solutions. And by the way, we have a trusted partner that can get you branded packaging, eco-conscious, with all of this for cheaper than you can get it here. So we'll just build this in with this order, and then we elevate your brand by doing this. We have this aspect that we can introduce this partner. So we really do look at it as a solutions company, and we can do that because we've put the work in to build the base and build it. So when they come here, the difference between 20 orders a week and 20,000 orders a week, to me, is nothing but a number of hours needed to process that, because the system is built for X amount of pull per hour, X amount of pick per hour, X amount of this. So when you build it out that way, you can make business decisions that are based upon numbers and they're real, and you can focus on what solutions can we provide so that you're not just a client, but let's be part of this, right? Let's help you build out your shipping matrix and Shopify, so you don't just have one rate. Do you want to offer express? Well, yeah, I'd like to. Great. Let's get the rates. Let's build it in here. This is how you can do X, Y, and Z. We try to engage with the clients and be that solutions partner, so they don't have to think about the operation.
See, I'm not surprised you grew at 100% a month. I mean, that's guru talk right there. So
It's
okay, so
it's a thought process. That's all it is, man. It's
so
a
you,
thought process.
all right. So let's get to. I want to talk about how the acquisition started.
Mhm.
So you're running Trekka.
Yep. I
What
was
happened?
naive.
Okay, what happened?
You had the ice storm,
Uh-huh.
and then you had 15 months of just rapid growth, right?
Right.
So there was debt that was taken out to support the business through the ice storm that monthly payments were being made on, but you can't support the growth of a business if you're still making those monthly payments. We got to a point where we probably could have made it. In retrospect, we could have made it. But I refused to jeopardize the clients and the employees that had put so much into building Trekka, quite frankly. And I saw an opportunity to be able to take those clients and employees to a bigger, better place. Since I couldn't fast enough get into another building and find an investor to be able to do X, Y, and Z, right? That was the option that I saw that was like, well, this is great because it checks this, this, and this, and I'm taking the clients to a bigger, better option and supported operation. So that decision was made out of, I'm not going to say that was the hardest decision I ever made, but you know, Trekka was my dream. It was my baby, right? We built a culture there. We built a reputation. We built a brand. But it was after the fact you realize it's also just a name, and we take everything that we learn from there and apply it to here, and we're 10 times better in every aspect, right? So the acquisition though.
Did they reach out to you guys, or was it vice versa? Or were you trying to?
It was an introduction from somebody.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There was a look.
What is that process like? So when you're negotiating, is it once you come up with a number? Is it
It's
simply,
fast.
Is it simply
Fast.
They send you the money, and you give them control of the company? Like, how does that work?
You agree to an acquisition date. As of this time, this company owns this, and this company no longer is responsible for this, or this company. It all comes down to legal letters on a paper that says, as of this time, this is this, and this is this, and then it's just checking off a checklist of things.
So on that date, do their people come in and you just give them access to all the tools and the systems?
No, it was on that day. It was very weird because the last day of Trekka was also the ice storm of 2023. So I have a picture.
Another ice storm.
I have a picture of me sitting in my office the last day of ownership of Trekka with nobody's in the building, UPS isn't running, and I'm the only one there with the ice storm in front. So
it's funny how we call it an ice storm, but someone up in Michigan would be like, that's just a flurry.
that's because they got salt trucks and they have plows, right? No, it was. So we were still in that building. Honestly, it was more work. It was more work because at that time, then you have to integrate without losing any level of service to the clients, because it's not their decision to move to a new 3PL, right? It's not the employee's decision. It is their decision. It is the employee's decision if they want to follow to the new place or not, or et cetera. But it's not really the client's decision. They can decide after the fact, I want to move somewhere else or not, or whatever it may be. But, a lot of them, there was a public announcement, right? And then there was some phone calls ahead of time to say, look, you're going to get an email about this. That's again, when you partner with companies and they come to you because they know that where they're at is putting them out of business, literally. They don't know what their inventory is. Orders are not going out. Their brand reputation is being destroyed because they can't even answer any questions. They have no visibility to anything. They've been fed a bunch of, well, we're good at this, so we can do this as well. No, that's not the same thing. Subscriptions and fulfillment are not the same thing, right? I want to make that very, very clear that there's probably a lot of subscription box companies out there that are with somewhere because they can get their 20,000 subscription orders out a month, but that's not fulfillment. That's not the management of hundreds and thousands of SKUs as well on top of that and being able to pick, pack, and ship. So there's been a lot of companies out there that have been burnt by that because, again, just two different concepts within a warehouse, but when you bring people on and we really learned how to deal with people with PTSD. 9 out of 10 clients that moved into Trekka had PTSD, and we had to prove that they could trust us through actions, not through words, because that never works. If you're in a bad relationship, you move on to somebody else and they say, oh, I'm not going to do that to you, but then the actions are different. Well, guess what? That's the way it is. So through actions, we had to do this, but many, many times we were cleaning up somebody else's just chaos. I remember getting trucks from other 3PLs where they didn't give a shit enough to even properly stack it on the outbound, and it would come in, and something that should be a receipt that should take, because it's a move-in, we want to be thorough, a day, took a week because it just was destroyed when it got there. Like, that's discouraging to me that other business people allow that to happen, because no matter what, like, that shows me right there why those people left you, right? And it discourages me that so many small businesses have to deal with that shit on a regular basis because they don't realize that there's somebody out there that really will care to, like, if we say that your orders are in by noon, they're going to ship that day. That's not a hard commitment to meet. If you're not meeting it, you need to staff properly. If you're not meeting it because you gave the wrong rates and so you can't staff properly because your margins aren't there, then you have a conversation with the customer. You don't just stop supporting them, right? That's what happens with a lot of these people, and they realize they come to us and they're trying to manage every single aspect of their business, and they're frazzled and they're like, what is this? And I'm like, dude, we got this. Wait, no, but we got this. We got this. It usually takes about 2 weeks before the communication becomes like not 10 times a day, like, it's still, but we really have we've become not experts because every situation is different, but very aware of being the PTSD, also dealing with companies that have been lied to, that don't truly know their inventory. We have a company moving in here that has 250 pallets of product that their 3PL took out of the master cartons and decided to dump it all into big giant single box Gaylords, 10 SKUs each. It's all mixed up. Why? Nobody knows. But that shows me there's no control. But people are dealing with this. They really are. The world would be a better place if people focused on what they were good on and they really excelled in that, and they didn't try to do everything if they don't know how to do it, or if they really want to, then learn, right? And learn this aspect and learn this aspect. There are things that come to me and I say, that's not our bread and butter. I don't want to commit to you in that because we can't perform the way you need to as a business, for us. I think a lot of people look at in my industry, they look at the product in the warehouse as clients. Those are clients out there. Those are businesses, right? When I sit and have a meeting about the P&L and the budget and the forecast, that people out there is having the same meeting and they're planning on you to perform for them, right? So I think it gets lost a lot in the aspect of, they're just a client, they're just a client, right? Now you can go too far where it's too close, obviously, but man, when you stop and look at, like, America is built on small business, right? Well, who's supporting the small businesses when they don't know, right? We had one client that came to us and she's like, I've got this stuff and I'm not really sure what to do with it, but I've got this product and I want to build my store, right? Perfect. I was in there helping her build her Shopify store. We were building out this. We were doing this, walking her through the process. Hey, what are you thinking about this? What are you thinking about this? That's not because we're experts. That's because we've watched so many companies come through here from startup. Which ones have made it? Which ones haven't? I have a firsthand view to literally watching case studies on all these different clients. What works, what doesn't, what works in this industry really well and then doesn't apply here, and vice versa. This marketing campaign that worked well here, this one that worked well here. For me, what I will finally do here at Einstein that we didn't get a chance to do at Trekka because we were growing so much is that, the Einstein Summit, I really want to bring all of our clients and give them an opportunity to come together and say, hey, once again, we're a solutions provider. So everybody fly in, because our clients are Dubai, China, UK, California, Pennsylvania, Florida. They're all over, right? But give people the opportunity to come together and say, oh, you're here too. How are you doing business? This is your product. I want to get into Home Depot. How did you do that? Can you help guide me there? Hey, I want to get into Costco. How did you do that? Bring in the packaging provider, bring in those people, and again, create a community and a culture that cultivates positivity and solutions and helping people, right? And I think that's the heart of what we did at Trekka, and that's what we do here. We took all of the lessons from Trekka and made this more better, right? Fine-tuned. We looked at it. If I haven't relived the past 3 years over in my head 20 times, that it's probably more than that, right? We are our own worst critic, but you can really focus on the core aspect of it and say we're still that core aspect. We're a service focus, first, because we want to build a culture where people are happy to work and happy to be successful. They have a path to success. Our clients have a path to success. Everybody has a path to success, and we're all just delivering and being good humans, right? Right. When we say we're going to do this, we do it. We don't think about this, right? Say you go online and order. I'll say this because they're our client here, so they know this doesn't happen. You go online and order Boom Chaga Super Drink. You got your 30-day subscription. You know it runs out on this day. The order comes in Friday night at 10 o'clock, right? So you're waiting all weekend. You know you run out on Wednesday. That's all right if it ships Monday. It's a 2-day transit. We were busy over the weekend, so it's not going to ship until Tuesday or Wednesday. Then you run off of this. One package affects everybody, right? It truly does. Again, that person's 30-day, 31-day supply of Boom Chaga Super Drink might be what they need every morning to keep their body in check with the inflammation and with everything else, right? It's made to do that. If you don't respect the fact that those clients have a vested interest in your client and your partner, right, then once again, it's just a box going out the door, right? That doesn't mean you have to hug every single package, but I'm saying you have to be aware that if you were the end user and you ordered this on Friday, that's all right. They don't ship on Saturday and Sunday, but it's getting picked up on Monday. It'll be here by Wednesday. But the 3PL's we're just busy. It'll probably ship Tuesday, which means the Monday orders are going to ship Wednesday or Thursday. It all cascades. If that's just what happens, then as a business, you can't make business decisions and count on your partner to be able to fulfill them. So then you're questioning things, right? It has a ripple effect through everything, that when the end user can't rely on the information that you are giving them as the product, provider, because you can't rely on what we're doing, nobody succeeds. Margins are lost, nobody succeeds, communication is gone. So I think that's really just, again, at the heart of it, you look at it and say, if I'm the guy receiving this package, how do I want to receive it, right? If I'm the guy shipping this package and I have to pay this shipping cost, do I want to pay $12 because the person in the warehouse didn't care to not ship air and they just picked a box and shipped it and it's shaking around everywhere? Or do I really want to pay $8 because the warehouse shipper chose to care and say, hey, you know what, we don't ship air. If it shakes, it breaks. So it's going to arrive in a good manner. You're going to spend less, you're going to do this, across the board. When you just care and you have a culture of caring, you have a culture of documentation, you have a culture of positivity and supporting that growth, and people want to succeed there, it follows through to the clients, right? Like, I've had clients come here, so many the last 6 months, that are just, I think we need to have females for this, for the attention to detail. Like there's a lot of, they create stipulations because just the general level of service hasn't been adhered to, right? And they don't have a level of trust there anymore. So it's and again, this is not to say there's a ton of good 3PLs out there, and I hope that those good 3PLs are listening to this saying, yeah, that's us, and we appreciate that somebody else is recognizing there's other 3PLs out there that are dealing with the PTSD every day. I guarantee you that, right? So but it's frustrating to hear small business owners listen to the impact it has on their business, how they're not selling product and they can't focus on cultivating this new sales channel and this marketing campaign because they're constantly just trying to figure out what they have in the warehouse. When's it going to ship? They have their own shipping accounts because they can't even trust the warehouse to ship it properly on their, it's nuts that there's so many of those out there. It's just, it makes me want to be like, just come here, we got you. Like, we'll give you right. Like, it's crazy, man, to just hear those horror stories. So that's what drives me as a business owner to say, you know what? I don't want that for my business. I don't want it for your business. We're not going to be those people. And you just to hold yourself to that standard.
So speaking of PTSD,
Yeah.
when you let Trekka go, besides doing the integrations and making sure everything was good before you left, how did it make you feel psychologically? And what did you do afterwards? Because I know it's your baby. And
Right after?
Sure. Or did you take a break or?
I did take a break,
Okay.
yes.
Because I know entrepreneurs feel like their business is their baby, and letting go is
Yes.
very difficult, right?
Yes. But at the time, I had been working so much that I had lost sight of my life, to be honest with you. And I don't want to say it was a relief. There's more to that, because it wasn't like, oh, okay, I'm walking away. That's a very loaded question that I don't know that I can really get into detail on. What I will say is that there's a myriad of emotions, right? And I think you face those at different times, and little things make you face those. But what I did was I walked away and just I think I was in shock, actually, for a while, that this is no longer, and I think there was not regret for me personally, but there was the hardest part for me was to say, that's not your responsibility anymore. As much as I wanted it to be,
Right.
I would get messages from clients, and man, it broke my freaking heart, to hear some of the stuff that, again, I'm not saying that this is, what I'm saying is, it was very hard to let go of knowing that we had worked very, very hard for that client, and that they were poised to do certain things, and that I didn't know if that was going to happen or not because people are good or not, or whatever it may be, but we had worked very closely with those people. Mm-hmm. And there was things that I had worked closely with them on that some of them still needed my input and wanted my input on, and I could no longer give that in. But that was the hardest part. Okay. The fact that I could no longer, that I had to say at times, I am no longer associated with Trekka Logistics. That was probably the hardest thing to type. But then you just really have to look at it and say, what does that really mean, though, right? Because you can say Trekka was Trekka, but at the same time, Trekka Logistics is two words. And was it Trekka that we were building, or was it the culture? Was it really who we were, right? Mm-hmm. And so you can say that you have Trekka and you have Einstein as one, but when it comes down to it, it's still the continued evolution of the same focus on build the house so that you can support build the foundation so you can support anything, the clients will come and you will be able to focus on the solutions for those clients so that you don't have to always have a sales team always trying to churn because you have referrals. And oh, by the way, just the clients that came in as 5 orders a day are now 150. These guys came in as 1,000 orders a day. Now they're 2,000, right? When you support clients that way, you don't always have to be searching for them and doing sales because they stay and they grow. And then they bring their friends, and their friends come in and they're like, oh, great. And then they grow. And, I think, call me crazy, I think you get what you put into the universe. The one big thing. And this is crazy. I've seen it. I don't know what you want to call it. You want to call it manifesting, divine intervention, whatever it may be. If I am just hammered that week, and as a leader, I'm overwhelmed, and as everything just has me down, right? Like you're just getting kicked in the teeth. The business as a whole will reflect that. And sales calls that were coming in will stop coming in.
There's a health aspect to being an entrepreneur.
There's a huge health aspect
right.
to being an
What are your
entrepreneur.
thoughts on, or advice to people running their own companies and being an entrepreneur, like as far as health and mental stability? And
mental health
yeah.
is 100% real. And when you are a sole business owner, you can talk to lots of other sole business owners, right? And they will understand the depths and the heaviness of, again, you look at it and you say, oh, that's fantastic. You grew from 2 to 15 employees overnight, right? Well, you still then also have to make sure that every Friday that paycheck is there. And when you sign that paycheck, you know that, or when you hit that direct deposit, however you're doing it, you have a commitment to those people then, right? And you have a commitment to these people. So mental health is 100% real and should not be underestimated. It shouldn't be hidden. It shouldn't be pushed through. Especially in an entrepreneur startup environment. It's very easy to go into manager mode and say, you know what, we need to get through this project here, then we're going to build the process, etc., and I'll deal with that tomorrow. I'll process it tomorrow. I'll deal with that tomorrow. That's great, but when you manager mode for 2 years, 3 years, there's a lot of shit that you didn't deal with, right? So 100%, you can sit here and look, I'm the best person for advice. My employees tell me, oh yeah, this and this. That's because I've learned, I've been through the hell of it, right? Take care of yourself, 100%. If you don't put the oxygen mask on first, you cannot lead your company, your people, your family, your friends. You cannot be at your best self and lead into that dream if you're not in your best self mentally. And that means that you have to acknowledge when you need to take care of yourself so that you can then take care of others. And that's different for some people, right? That might mean some people can go hard and then get away to the mountains for 2 days, then come back refreshed, and that's what it is. For me, I didn't prioritize that. I didn't go away to the mountains enough, right? When I did, it was the same concept of, as you climb the mountain, that there's not a lot of reels out right now about this is what my head feels like, this is what my head feels like here, right? That's what it's always been to me, is the fact that I'm kicking my ass going up the mountain, and when I get to the top, that's me, and nothing comes back in, because it's very easy to not realize how much chatter is going on in your brain. Not only that, but just how much. When you're running a business, you are being constantly inundated with numbers, personalities, phone calls, technology, everything. It's just a constant bombardment of it, right? And the body is not made to absorb all of that and continue pushing through that for an extended period of time, right? You can say, oh, I'm going to do that I'm going to work this weekend and do that for 2 weeks, right? But if that turns into then 2 weekends in a row, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, then 7, you're not performing at your best. And how can you lead others? And how can you build this? And how can you do this? And while you're doing it for everybody else, because you've made these commitments to this client that we're going to have this done for you, right? The client didn't know how much shit they were actually throwing at you because, again, that's why they came from that 3PL. But hey, you know what? If this isn't done, their business is going to be impacted in an extremely negative financial way. So this has to happen, right? So there's always next weekend. But if you never actually take that next weekend, you can do a lot of damage daily to where you have to stop back and say, wait a minute, what is this, right? So mental health is real.
Right.
I would say anybody who feels like they may be alone in that, again, it can be extremely heavy. Reach out, and if you have people that are in those situations of being business owners, just check on them, right? Like, that's not to say that, man, there's people in life that are, an entrepreneur story or anything else, it doesn't matter, right? You have veterans coming back from war. You have people living in third world countries that, like, me talking about mental health doesn't mean shit to them. They're just trying to eat, right? So perspective, right? But, like, in that perspective, if you have family and friends that are doing this, right? Like, and the thing is too, sometimes support doesn't mean solving problems. Support doesn't mean things. Support means you're there, right? Sometimes that means, hey, you know what? I made reservations for dinner. Oh, I can't work. It doesn't matter. You're coming out for, we made these reservations. You don't take the answer of, like, oh yeah, he's always too busy working. He's always too busy working. He's always too busy working. No. Guess what? You can take a night off. No, I can't. No, you can. Come have dinner, right? Like, trust your gut. When you know people, trust your gut. And first and foremost, always trust yourself, right? Like, but no, like, don't ever discount mental health, because it's a very serious thing. Yeah.
So, after Trekka, you took some time off, you said. Tell us.
I went on the road trip of my life that I had been planning on, right?
So that you recharged, basically, right? Would you say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Somewhat, yeah.
So how did let's talk about how Einstein came about.
Okay.
How did it start? What
So
made you
yeah,
do it? What lessons did you learn? What are you doing? All that stuff.
I realized that my calling was in this, honestly. So after Trekka, there was obviously, okay, I just need to cool off, right? And then there was, hey, come here, and you can do this here, you can do this here, hey, you do this here.
Were people recruiting you or stuff?
Mhm.
Okay.
But I realized that, when I did that, and then again, I went on a 2-week road trip, and we hit national parks that had been on my, like, it was a bucket list road trip type of thing, right? And I looked into this, and it was the same thing. I realized I may be a glutton, but my calling is in this, and not just like, oh, let's go open a warehouse, build a 3PL, but in continuing what we were doing at Trekka. And again, like, that's just 2 letters, but if you walk in here, you'll feel the same culture as Trekka, just more refined, more supported, more dialed in, detailed. I'll tell you, we're doing things here. We were doing things here the 3rd week that I could not get implemented the entire 2 years at Trekka, because it was just, when you're growing that fast as well, you bring these people in, you bring these people in, like, you truly have a tiger by the tail. That's the way it feels sometimes, right? And you're just trying to meet every commitment and keep it all, like, under control. But coming here, then you say, hey, you know what? We know the impact that these systems had, so we ensure that from day one, there we go. And we really, if you look at the aspect of revenue-wise, we rebuilt Trekka in 4 months here, because we took everything that we did there and we made it better here. And that's exactly, we said, you know what, we know this works, we knew this works. We took everything that we did there and said, for all of the clients and the employees and the people that were involved in that, that's not going to be a waste of time. We're going to use that time and learn from it and just, go be better, right? So that's what we are.
How did Einstein start? Like, how did they approach you, or how did you start?
So actually, I realized that this was my calling, so I started a new fulfillment company. I established a new fulfillment company.
Okay.
And then I met with some people, and I realized that here at Einstein, they were doing the same thing. And I thought back to what somebody told me 4 months after I started Trekka, and they say, you are an idiot for starting a business by yourself. And I'm like, yeah, I get it, right? Like, not really, yeah, I get it, right? Well, I understand what that means now, right? I think we talked about this. Do you want me to go into what that means?
Go ahead.
Cool. Like starting a business with somebody is not about like, oh, hey, they have this skill set and this skill set, and we want to do these things together. Again, it comes. You asked about mental health, right? When you start a business with somebody, you share the load with them, and that means the entire load, right? Some person might be doing all the finances and one person's doing all the operations, but multiple parties have a vested interest in that, not just from a paycheck perspective and getting that paycheck, but from ensuring that that paycheck is good, right? That everything is supported and met. So I knew the person that was getting this up and going. I looked at him as somebody that, after my MBA school at Trekka, basically, right? I looked at him as somebody that I could continue learning from, right? That as a partnership, I could bring my expertise to him, and he could bring his expertise to me, and through that, again, Einstein is a different name, but it's the same. It's just the bigger and better concept, right? So I decided that instead of doing something on my own, again, I'm going to be smart and do something with somebody else. So I build Einstein, and he's very involved in a strategic manner as far as what do we need, how do we do this, where do you need help, but it's just, so I came into it and said, look, all right, cool, I'm willing to do it again. Let's build it. Let's build the empire that I always planned with Trekka, and take everything that we learned from Trekka and use that to actually build the empire. So then.
So when you came, it's basically a blank slate.
Blank slate.
So Einstein wasn't around very long when you came on as partner.
Einstein, the building was here, but they weren't operating truly. So
Okay.
That there was. Again, I don't want to say I don't want to say things that people might misinterpret anywhere. When I came here, we had to build a company from scratch.
Okay.
Yes, the building was here, and there was a client in the warehouse, but they were not being. We had to build the systems to properly even operate the client, and that moves into, okay, we have to build the front end, we have to build this. But again, then you look at what you did over there, and you can say, hey, if you build it, they'll come, right? I invested $20,000 a year in NetSuite, and that was a waste of my money because we could have grown into that, and it was for the, hey, this is for the future. I don't want to have to deal with changing ERPs or anything for X amount of time, but it would have been smarter for me to just go with Zoho for the first 2 years and then evolve into that, right? So when you start a business, I think the hardest part is getting from 0 to 1. When you have 1, you have somewhere to go. You can say, hey, I'm handing this off to you, make it better. Mm-hmm. Here's this concept, here's this project, here's this order, here's where we need to get, write out the steps, and let's work through that to get it better. But when there's nothing and you're trying to get people to understand that concept and build it, it's very hard. But we took all of that and put it into play here. And so sorry, I came together with those people. We walked in here, clean slate. I implemented certain systems. We did use the same WMS. I've used multiple WMS warehouse management systems as a solution software. We did go back to the one that we were using at Trekka because I felt that it's shown me here. It's supported everything from, again, the small little $3 2-ounce thing going out the door to all the B2B pallets, Amazon. It doesn't matter what we do. It supports that ability to. And it allows us to control our API connections as well.
Was that the first thing you did when you got here? Because you come on board as a partner.
You can't manage what you don't
scratch.
know.
Okay.
So the first thing you got to do is have a system, right?
Right.
So if you want to make business decisions, what's our revenue today? I don't know. Oh crap. Well, then, you can't manage what you don't know. It's all about the data, and garbage in is garbage out, right? And our systems are built on that, right? If there is one each wrong, it's all wrong to me, right? And we've had clients come in here and say, hey, so you guys are 100% inventory? No. Any 3PO that tells you that they're 100% inventory all the time is lying. We strive to be perfect all the time, and that means that we will hit that a majority of the time. The difference is if there is a discrepancy anywhere, client will say, hey, wait, on this there was X, Y, and Z, right? We can trace that because everything is forced to be scanned. Everything is in a location. Everything is through. We can trace it through and say, oh, that's because this right here, barcode, actually, the barcode is wrong on this, so it read as this SKU, but we can then, and what would we do is we utilize that then as a solutions process. Hey, we need to go back to your manufacturer and make sure we're testing X, Y, and Z, right? So if you don't have a way to measure anything, then you can't make any real business decisions, right? So that was the first thing I did, was ensuring that every single action was built properly in extensive, our warehouse management software, in extensive, made sure it was capturing things in real time. That's the other key thing too, is that in an operation like ours, you have to always operate in the system, everything that you do. When it doesn't work is when somebody says, you know what, I'm not real familiar with it, so I'm going to do this on this packing list and write all of this out, and then I'm going to go into the system and document what I did. That's where everything gets wrong. It falls apart then, right? And you have to be very aware of that, because people can hide that for a long time. That happened to me at Trekka, where people hid that they weren't actually operating within the system. They were operating off of a spreadsheet and managing things off of a spreadsheet and then uploading it in there and then wondering why inventory was crazy, right? That's because it wasn't being operated through the system. So then I have to come back and fix that, right? So you have to make it very clear and train people properly. And when they understand, they're like, wait, this is the easiest thing in the world. But initially they're scared of it because they're like, it shouldn't be this easy. We build it that way so it is that easy. But everything can be traced. Everything goes back to the granular level of it. And everything goes back to being able to make a business decision. Again, somebody comes to me with 20 orders a day or 2,000 orders a day. It's the same approach. I'm gathering the same information. I'm determining what it's going to take me, what is my hourly cost, what margin do I need to make to be able to keep the lights on, pay the employees, and be able to move forward, right? And then it's a matter of, okay, cool, how many picks, how many this, great. It's all a time study. And when you build a standardized operation, it's all a time study, and it's scaling. It's, oh man, can you guys really handle that? Yeah, we can. Hey, Chelsea, how quickly can we have 9 people here? We already got them on the list. We can have them there in 3 days. Perfect. I've seen it in action here, right? And so it's been cool. It's been cool for me to validate honestly things here that we tried to do at Trekka. We did do at Trekka through the M&A, things that worked, what didn't work, but then come here and say, okay, cool, and then and validate those processes to where we can onboard 3 clients in 1 week with. We onboarded 3 clients in 1 week with 5 people, and I had the client come out the next week and say, "You do all this with X amount of people, right?" And I'm like, again, because it's all a time study. We can allocate X to this, X to this, X to this, X amount of people, and then it's a matter of just them performing. But the great thing is that when everybody works in the system, you trust the system and you look at the dashboard and say, hey, this person's on pace for this, picking this many per hour, this many per hour. You don't have to be in it. So the key is to really just build the system and everything works in it, and train people to trust the system and be part of that. And then we can focus on the solutions. So that's what it really was at Einstein as well, is that, I've been very lucky, not even as a business owner, but working for other people, I know that there are warehouse managers, there are directors, there are people that dream of having an empty like warehouse, clean slate, right? And in my career, I've had that. I thought about that the other day. Like I before I even started these businesses, I had it so many times, right? So my entire career, even before as an entrepreneur, when I was working for others, I was building out these processes. I was transitioning this to a 3PL model, this distribution model to an e-com model. I've always done that. So here, it really has felt like the culmination of working for somebody else through all those formative years, right? Branching out on my own, doing it solo as an entrepreneur, enjoying all of the highs of the happiness, all of the lows of the pain, all of that, and then saying, okay, cool, we did this, now let's really just, hone in on it. So that's really what this place is, The people that are here are people that are handpicked throughout my career that I knew we're gonna build a startup again, right? You can't explain that to somebody. That's not like, but it's a lot of faith, it's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of on every aspect, not just for me, for the onboarding people, for the warehouse manager, for the shipping associate, right? Like startups are inherently hard. One day this customer has 20 orders, the next 200, then they're like, oh man, am I going to get fired because there's no work today? But the next day there's too much work, right? That's what startups are. But you get through that to where economy of scale and you just keep on rolling, and that's what we're able to do quickly here, because we took everything that we had done previously and just applied it. That doesn't mean we're perfect at all.
So
every day we learn.
So aside from the management system and training employees, what other things did you have to do to get this thing up and running, and what lessons did you learn from Trekka that you applied here too?
You can trust someone but not the work. You can have fully trust somebody, but that doesn't mean you should trust their work. That doesn't mean that somebody does something poorly. That doesn't mean that you can't trust that person to do good work. That means that you should always check up on the work and make sure that that person understands the assignment. Make sure that person is on the same page as you. Okay, so the biggest thing, I'm going to quote somebody. I don't know if you can, Jurgen Klopp, who's the Liverpool manager. You probably saw actually a football coach quoting of this many
Is he
weeks.
the current Liverpool manager?
Yeah, he's
Okay.
leaving at the end of the season.
Right.
Right?
They're in first place right now in the EPL, right?
Yes. I will tell you, I've never in my life admired somebody and looked up to somebody. That man I do,
Okay.
as a person. Whether you like Liverpool or not, doesn't really matter. You can be like, screw them. But if you look at Jurgen Klopp and who he is as a person, who he is as a human, right? Who he is as a leader, who he is to the people around him, and how he inspires people on the other side of the world because of who he is, right? There's something that he said when he first came to Liverpool, and he said, basically paraphrasing, when everybody believes and has the same vision and comes together in that same vision, right? Essentially, we can accomplish wonderful things, fantastic things, right? That's the key, man. Communication is key. Communication is number one key. Not only just communicate. Communication is not just like, hey, I've given you a directive. Communication is a two-way street. And when you talk about communication, you have to bring perspective into play as well. And here my warehouse manager is young, and we have other people that some people would say are probably closer to retiring. We have the middle gambit of it. We are a very, very, very diverse group here, right? And you're dealing with a lot of personalities, and you're dealing with a lot of backgrounds, and you're dealing with a lot of that. But if the vision is clear as far as what we're all trying to accomplish, and everybody believes in that, nothing can stop you. So poor communication, though, can destroy a company. Again, I've seen it from week to week, from day to day, right? Everybody sits here and says, we need to have a meeting every morning at 8 o'clock. Cool. How many times did you have that meeting over the last month? Well, we were just so busy. Great. So you have 5 people all doing what they think is best for the company and doing what they need to do. But at the end of the day, did we really achieve a full potential? Because if we would have worked together, maybe we could have got it done in 6 hours total, and then you have 2 hours to prepare for tomorrow. At the end of the day, everything was done, yes, but did we really, so communication is key. And a lot of people will be like, don't micromanage me. I'm not a micromanager. I don't believe in micromanaging. If you have to micromanage somebody, they shouldn't be there. But like, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't communicate, right? And I had an employee actually ask me recently, how can I improve? I said, every day you need to be talking to these 2 people twice a day, 10 minutes. Doesn't matter if you have nothing new to talk about. What you're doing is, as a leadership team, you're saying, this is what I'm working on, this is what I'm working on, this is what I'm working on. Oh, you're working on that too? Hey, let's collaborate. Don't worry about it. I got this aspect and you got this aspect. Great, we're going to get it done and work as a team, right? You can come in and say, our CS manager is killing it. That department is killing it. The warehouse and their manager and their team is killing it. The sales, but like the HR team, right? Like the office team, they're killing it. If everybody is killing it individually, but they're all working towards their own lane, nobody's coming together to really accomplish as a goal, like to move the company forward and be able, and you then build different interpretations of things. Does this word mean this? Does this word mean this, right? When we do this process, wait, I do it this way, but you do it this way. No. There's the Einstein way, right? That we both do it that way. So communication is key. Like, it really, really is. I saw some quote a couple of years ago that said, like, the difference between a good business and a great business truly is not saying we're going to have the meetings, but having them. And also, though, don't have meetings just to have meetings, right? And like, you can't, if you're having meetings all the time, you're not getting anything done, right? So there's an adverse side to that, but there's also like, we don't want to bother them because he's super busy. We don't want to bother him because he's super busy. We're all busy, so we'll just get things done, right? Okay, again, that's great, but what is the company trying to accomplish, right? Your department here, your department here, your department here. But at the end of the day, if all of you succeeded, but here we didn't respond to the client properly, we didn't get them this information, this order didn't go out over here, it's not, hey, great, it's, hey, Einstein, on the Google review, Einstein sucks, they didn't ship my order today. No, we don't, we've been perfect. Well, Einstein as a company, the perception is that this customer didn't, right? This hasn't happened, but I'm saying, like, so you have to communicate and you have to make sure that people are on the same page, and it's a very fast-paced business as well. So if you meet at 8 o'clock in the morning and plan out, hey, this is where we're at, by 12, things could be different. This customer's got maybe we might need to reprioritize. Maybe we're staffed every day because we know that everything that comes in before noon is going to go out and be picked up by 3 and 4 with UPS and FedEx and DHL. But, oh, holy crap, these people had a viral TikTok, so they've got 1,000 more orders that came in between 10 and 11. How do we handle that, right? We have to talk about that as a team and as a group to see where we can actually, that doesn't mean that you don't know how to handle it. How do we support you to get it through, right? You're not alone in this. We're going to support you. Can we pull this from here? Can we do this from here? So communication, like, in the end, the number one thing in business is communication. And making sure that the communication is clear, right?
Would it be safe to say you're setting a culture by doing that?
You have to. Like, you have to. Document things, right? This might sound stupid or silly or, hey, this is, but people hear things differently. People interpret things differently. In my warehouse, we have full English only, we have full Spanish only, and we have bilingual, right? Okay, so who's going to give the direction? And if I speak 60% Spanish and you speak 60% English, and we think we've communicated on this, but then you go away and you do something differently, whose fault is that, right? Because we didn't confirm that the communication was there. So that's why you document the process. You create the SOP and you say, hey, laminate it, and then it's there at the packing station. If there's any questions, they look down and say, oh, this ships this way. Got it. And they keep on rolling, right? So you train people, you make sure that the communication is clear, that they understand what are they trying to achieve, right? People who don't know what they're really working for will work in circles. And a lot of them will be afraid to ask, because if they keep asking, they're like, oh, my manager thinks I'm dumb because I keep asking what should I do and what should I do next. But they're working in circles because they don't have clear direction, right? People naturally will want to work towards achieving personal success. And to them, that might mean that I killed it on this order set today. At the end of the day, the order queue is empty. This is this. I have pride in my work. I go home. And that's what they want. If you don't provide that to them and you don't provide them the tools for that success, you can't expect success out of them. And sometimes that literally means just documenting, hey, this client ships this way in this size box and this way here. And then just look down and say, if there's ever any doubt, if there's ever any whatever, they just look down and boom, here we go, right? So communication is key, and also enforcing, which is also a big thing with startups as well. Like you have, when you're small and you have people, sometimes they have to do different jobs, and that's not their job. And then you have to snap them into it and say, look, we're a big company now, so before where you jumped in here, stay out of it. That's not your lane anymore. Right. You need to come over here, right? And then feelings get hurt.
And
like
that's hard,
there's a lot of navigating that, right? Yeah. It's, again, keeping everybody on the same page of like, hey, your role is this here, and you're doing this because we are 5 people. But next week, we're bringing 5 more people on, and you need to be ready for when that comes so that you can step into this role, right? So it's clarity. It's making sure that people are talking and not getting bogged down and just, they can't see the big picture because they're just weeds, and they're in the weeds in the forest, and all they see is trees, and I don't know how many I cut down. It's not getting away. Cool. Step on out. Give me your task list.
Right.
Here you go, boss. You feel better? Cool. Right? Like sometimes it's just talking.
Right.
It's getting that out. It's the communication. Right.
Well, you said when you first got here, you had 1 client. How did you grow Einstein's clients? Was it more word of mouth?
Different than
Trekka?
Well.
Yeah.
Different than Trekka. One thing that I did have here that I did not have at Trekka was access to a fantastic marketing company. So they helped me really dial in the Google Ads, and I worked on certain words with them, and we were lucky enough that people were finding us, you know. So while I was building the company and all the processes, there was still there was a lot of junk, but there was a lot of like actual interest that was kind of coming through.
And that's on top of referrals too, right?
The referrals, yeah, there was a mixture of that in there as well. There was people that found out that I was here that I couldn't help for legal reasons, but they knew other people that needed help, and they said, you need to talk to this guy. Okay. And so then again, we met, you know, one client moves in and they're like, hey, I've got another client for you, right? And so, and those all happen at different time frames too, right? You might negotiate with somebody for 30 days and go through all of that, and then they say, okay, fantastic. Oh, by the way, I've got another client. And then that next client is a 3-day sales cycle, because the trust is there that this person has done all this due diligence. Right. And so, yeah, at this point, it's been a mixture of 50-50 of that and then referrals. From my aspect, I'm super excited to actually do the outbound sales, to start on the outbound sales coming into like this year. The good part is that I haven't been able to start the outbound sales because the inbound is actually that right. Like steady enough, yeah. Right? Like, so it hasn't gone dry to where, but I'm excited to really focus on the sales channels that I want to grow here, that I know can really define us.
Bound by any legal rules with the company that bought Trekka, saying that you can't like take customers or something like that? Okay.
For a certain time frame, yeah.
Okay. And then somebody that wants to get into 3PL, start their own company. You've started 2 companies now. What advice do you give them? What are they in for? are they looking? What can they look forward to, and how should they go about it? I guess.
Golly.
That's a big question, right?
I don't know how to answer that question.
Because since our last video, you and I have both gotten emails.
To that point.
Asking us, right?
Yes. To the people that left. Look, when I did your video, I was scared shitless. People are going to be like, who is this guy? I still think that way, right? I read those comments and I'm like, I'm not anybody special. I'm just a dude talking on here, right? Like, I've been through something. If I can help somebody else understand, but it truly does mean a lot to me that if I've been able to inspire other people to do the same. You know, there's a lot of people that reached out to me that I didn't get a chance to even respond to because Trekka was going so much that it was just a like. And that was another, like, honestly, that was another stressor that I onboarded. Like, oh shit, I need to be able to talk to these people, but like, it's all good. But those are the things that you learn to manage because you're like, wait, we did this, and these people are reaching out saying, hey, I would appreciate an hour of your time, right? Can you tell me this? Can you tell me this? And what we're building is truly a service first, like we building that culture of building people up and doing all of this, but yet I can't help over here. And so it created, it didn't create like weird things for me, but it was an interesting concept to deal with.
Because we weren't intending for that to happen.
We really weren't, honestly. Like,
we just wanted to talk about 3PL companies.
You came to me and said, hey Matt, like we I thought there was gonna be like 5 people that saw the video, right? Like, really? Like, okay, who cares? So, like, no offense to you guys,
sure.
Right? But like, not saying that. But I'm like, who's gonna? Okay, skip. Like,
we're just a shock.
I'm gonna get like 5 views. It's all good. And but if one of those 5 people is like, hey, cool. Like, look, man, I look back to those. I look back to that time period.
But what can they look forward to, or not look forward to?
Sorry, what can they look forward to?
Or what should they do first? I guess coming out of the barrel in the beginning, or have ready or prepared.
You just need to be as prepared as possible, and what that really means, there is no definition to that. What it means is you don't know when that's going to hit, right? Like. At one point in time, I can tell you it was a very real situation, and you're like, okay, how do we handle this if this happens? Oh, we just have to be ready for it, and that's where I come from building. Okay, what you have to do when you start out is build your system and believe in it, right? And build something that can support what you're selling.
You mean like a software system that
whatever it may be, whatever it may be, whatever you're selling, be able to support it.
Okay.
Because when you talk to somebody, you, number one, don't know how quickly they really want to move. Number two, if they're talking to you as a prospective 3PL, they're probably talking to 20 other people as well. And if you don't know what you're talking, well, we could do this, oh, hey, this, oh, hey, this. You know what they're going to say? I could talk to the guy next door who says we will, we do, and we can, right? So even if you don't have, if you're starting out and you've got 20 orders a day, but you have the system that can push 2,000 and you can show that and you can do that, have faith in that. Sell that, right? Like that's, but perform on it, right? But so if you don't have a foundation to rely on, right? And that would quite frankly be a WMS and a financial or customer, like if you want to use Salesforce, if you want to use like whatever, but from day one, QuickBooks Online is cheap. Zoho, like you can find something. Don't be scared of learning that aspect because nobody else is going to manage it if you don't, right? So I would say that as well. Educate yourself as much as possible. I tell people here that their job is to learn something new every day. I don't care what it is. If that's like, hey, this rhinoceros in Africa did X, Y, and Z, it doesn't matter. Like as a person, learn something new every day. Learn a new trait. As a business and as a business owner, even if you have a CFO, I start from scratch and I've got $1 million and I just say, I'm going to put this person in place, this person in place, this person in place. If you don't know what that truly means, how are you going to manage them? How are you going to truly, so like understand what you have built and understand your processes and your system, and it will sell itself because you will be able to perform with what you built. Don't go out there and sell things and say, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. Because when it comes down to it, if you don't know what you're talking about, don't sell it. Learn it, then sell it. Add it on, right? Like when we started Trekka, we wanted to be everything, but we focused on this because we knew that's what we were good at. And then we said, great, we can really focus on this. 3 years ago, I wasn't going into people's Shopify account, building out shipping matrix for them, doing this, but I know where my knowledge ends. So when somebody says, can you help me with this affiliate and setting this up? Nope, that's not my gig. But yeah, man, let me help you set up your SKUs. Let me help you do this. You don't need to go pay these people to do X, Y, and Z because I do the APIs. This person does the APIs. We do all the front end, and then it's this right here. Like, so continue educating yourself on the business that you are running, right? Don't have an aspect of the business that you don't know and that you can't answer for on demand, because if you can't do that, how can you manage it? And if you can't manage it, how do you know you're actually making money on it and running margins, right? Like in this industry, that's the biggest thing I would say to somebody is that you have to be able to track every penny and make that decision, right? You can look at it and say, man, we're doing 10,000 orders a day, and we're doing this, and we're doing this, and we have 150 people. Okay, but how often do you have people literally just stand, like you're throwing bodies at it? That catches up. It doesn't matter how big of a company. It doesn't matter if you're at $500,000 3PL, 5 million, 50 million, doesn't matter, right? If you don't have the ability to capture all data and analyze it properly, you can fail very, very quickly. And you're like, where's the money going? Where's this going? Why do we have all this overtime? Why do we have all this? Why do we have all this, right? Dig in and know it. Like you have to know it, because if you don't, then you have people that can be actually working against you within your company and you don't realize it. And that can be very detrimental and dysfunctional.
Right. Well, that's great advice. And I hope a lot of people hear that. And
have a mentor.
Okay.
Have somebody to lean on, like
awesome.
Have somebody to lean on that's not your wife or your family or your friends, right? They're there for you to drink a beer with and say, oh man, it was really shitty today, right? But dude, the weight of this paycheck and this and this and this and this, people who don't own businesses don't understand that, because they understand it. You can go to college and learn, and an MBA, I need to make these decisions based upon X, Y, and Z. But if you have not lived that and said, okay, we need to make this decision, we know this is coming, we know this is coming, we know this is coming, this is happening here. If you haven't had to actually manage out of the red in a business, if you haven't had to do those things, if you haven't had to do that, you learn very quickly when you're doing it what you need to do to manage out of it. But you also need to know, you have to have somebody who understands what you're saying.
I can
right?
see people asking you to be their mentor now.
Hey, I'll make this commitment. I will do what I told you
Sure.
about earlier. But no, it really, you can't do it alone. It doesn't matter. I don't care who you are. You can't do it alone.
Right.
And maybe that support system is your friends. Maybe that support system is your family. Maybe that support system is a partner. But you also have to respect those people as well and understand that if you made a decision to go all in on this, if they're not a partner, they're not a partner, right? So don't expect them to have the same level of heaviness, of depth, right? If they're a friend, they're there to be your friend and they're to support you. They'll be there. You need them on a Saturday to help box things, they're going to be there, right? But they don't want to hear about money problems, employee problems, any of that stuff, because they're probably complaining about that at their own job, right? So understanding that, you're not alone, but that doesn't mean that everybody understands what you're going through, and finding those people to say, hey, and acknowledging also saying, look, I'm not looking for answers. I'm looking for 8 minutes to just, most health insurance today has free Teladoc, mental health, all of that. Like
Yep.
most of it does. I don't care what company you're on. It's such a big thing these days. Use it. You know, go out in your car at lunch and talk to a counselor for 30 minutes because they're not going to fix you. Nobody's going to fix you. But what they are is they're that person that isn't a friend, family, coworker that you can just get it all out and say, damn, I didn't hurt you by getting this all out. You're not onboarding this. That wasn't the purpose, right? Like you're not part of this. But people will onboard things, right? And it's heavy starting a business. So if you don't talk to the right people, you can actually hurt other people that you care about by not acknowledging those boundaries and living those boundaries. So
Right.
I would say that as well to any prospective business owners.
Great advice. How about we end with, tell us about Einstein and where you see it eventually.
The Einstein Empire.
Yeah.
Look, Einstein, we've touched on it. Einstein is the bigger, better, right? Einstein is handpicking everything from that and going from there. Einstein is me watching people and companies and this company just move forward and progress and achieve and fulfill dreams. And Einstein will continue to be that. Einstein will not make the same decisions Trekka made. Again, like for whatever reason, right? Again, I don't really. I look back again to like when I'm sitting in the office starting Trekka, right? I'm that guy, like the little kindergartner at his desk, like with the crayons, right? And now I've been through my MBA and then some, you know? And so we can take and still have that same beautiful concept of building a positive culture and a positive experience for everybody, but learn through all the pain and all the heartache and all the happiness and all of that. And that's what Einstein is that we do what we say. One of the greatest things client that came in here and through the process, I'm like, look, he's like, well, we have this, and this. And look, the way we handle it in the warehouse, we're going to use this. We're going to manage the inventory through this movable unit, XYZ, and that's how we'll do it, right? I find out 2 days later that when his product, was moving in, he's actually out there in the warehouse high-fiving the onboarding, supervisor that's working with him, and in shock that he went to her and was like, well, we've got this and this, and her response was the exact same as mine. And then she said, this is how we do it, pop, 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 and then here you go. And he's like, wait, what? So that's what Einstein is. It's the ability to follow through on a much, much, much bigger level. We've got this building here. It's the same concept, though, is that we'll move into a larger facility locally. We will add regionally, east, west coast, so that we can get everything within essentially a 2-day. For us, it's zones. I aim to get my clients all under zone 4 or less because from a financial perspective, that's what they need, right? You don't want to be shipping to zone 8 all the time. But it's also the ability for me to not be that startup guy who's still learning how to build a startup and run, like, how do you run a business? What's important? What's really important? I've read these books. What's this? No, let's just execute and perform. And it's beautiful to see that, honestly. So that's what Einstein is that we grow that, we move on. And for me, Einstein will continue to focus on cross-border and the U.S. companies wanting to break into Europe, and especially the European, again, Europe, Dubai, China. We have clients reaching out we have this interest from the U.S., but we don't know how to break into the U.S. Cool. I've got your company that can help you be an importer of record. We've got your importing here. Once it gets here, we've got this, so we're the one-stop shop that is strong. We're a strong one-stop shop. Does that answer your question?
It does, and I'll end it with this, Matt. When the first video, my first line to you was I said how proud I am of you because you worked at a company for a long time, but you took that leap to become a business owner, right?
Yeah.
And now the second time around, there's this calmness and some years of wear and tear, but you've learned from that. So it kind of takes me back. I'm a little bit in awe, right? Because it feels like there's a lot of wisdom there. So I'm very happy to see
any
that.
of that, that's what I'm here for, man.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you for coming back.
Thanks for having me.
Best of luck with everything.
Yeah, and good luck. Thank you, and good luck to all of the aspiring entrepreneurs. That maybe this video gets 5 views. If people see this video and it inspires them to do the same thing as the first video, then shoot for the moon.
Yep. Absolutely. All right.
Thanks, guys.